The nightlife in cities is a unique experience bringing culture and activity to people's lives. Our group, consisting of Anamika Bansal and Jenny Wu, picked the cities of New York, Toronto, and London to see if there were differing spatial patterns across different countries. Throughout our research, we found that nightclubs tended to cluster in the same area and form outgoing concentric circles. Our goals for this project: 1 is to find spatial patterns within cities, 2 to relate these findings to theoretical backing, and 3 to gather data to support the initial mapping patterns. To start off, we will be discussing the spatial analysis. The focus of our project will be on the nightclubs in major cities around the world. Nightclubs are volatile enterprises whose success and failure is dependent on the location and therein their population distributions within the city. After reviewing the plotted locations of the nightclubs on the maps, we hope to discover similarities as well as differences between each country's organizational structure, ethnic preferences, or broader trends that cross international borders. In addition, the reasons behind the patterns may help us better understand what allows the nightclubs to thrive in certain areas and run out of business in others. The main resource we used for the initial data gathering process was the Google search engine. In Google Maps, we searched the name of the city with the words nightclub attached to it. This was to generate our sample list. From the list they generated for each city, we included the first 20 nightclubs that had the nightclub tag on Google. We did not exclude any specialty nightclubs. Our analysis consists of 60 nightclubs in total, and we have used the colors red, blue, black, and yellow to create zones 1 through 4 respectively. This organizes the observed spatial differences. The circles drawn are arbitrary and only serve to make the patterns of the nightclub placement more transparent. The nightclubs in Toronto are mainly located in the downtown area. In downtown Toronto, there is an area called the Entertainment District, which includes all types of restaurants and tourist attractions. The clubs are mostly located in and around that district. As we move further away from the core, the number of clubs decreased significantly. The average rating of these 20 clubs with data pulled from Google is 3.15 out of 5. In Zone 1, there are 13 clubs. In Zone 2, there are 3. In Zone 3, there are 3, and in Zone 4, there is 1. The nightclubs in London are mainly located in the west end of the city in Soho. The area is known for its combination of restaurants, shopping, and nightlife variety. For the few number of clubs that are not located in that core of Soho, they tend to be located slightly to the east. The number of clubs decreased significantly as you move away from those areas. The average rating of these 20 clubs with data pulled from Google is 3.425. In Zone 1, there are 9 clubs. In Zone 2, there are 8. Zone 3, there are 2. And in Zone 4, there is only 1. In New York City, the Google Maps put focus in the Manhattan borough with some crossing over into the Brooklyn borough. The main nightclub scene is spread across Chelsea, where there is also a concentration of the LGBTQ population and a concentration of the art world. The clubs also spread into Midtown West, Midtown East areas, Lower Manhattan, East Village, and Brooklyn. The average rating for these 20 clubs with data pulled from Google is 3.39. In Zone 1, there were 6 clubs. In Zone 2, there were 3. In Zone 3, there were 5. And in Zone 4, there were 6. In this city, even though the spread of nightclubs gets larger the further you move away from the core, there is still the same amount of markers in Zone 1 and Zone 4. All 3 cities, when compared, show different spatial distribution patterns of their nightclubs, but there still remain a few similarities. They all have a tendency to concentrate in the core areas of the city. As you move away from this core, the establishments tend to be fewer in number as well as more spaced out. However, this is where the differences emerge. The cores in each city are known for different specialties. London's core, Soho, is known for its shopping and nightlife. New York's core, Chelsea, is known for its LGBTQ and art community, and Toronto's core is in the entertainment district. The entertainment would include its theaters, sports centers, and tourist attractions. In New York, this is not the case, where there are different districts with their own specialties. For example, Chelsea is beside the meat and garment districts, but they do not overlap. Now looking at the zones drawn on each of the maps, Toronto's nightclubs are very densely located in one area, with more than half in Zone 1. London's distribution is more evenly dispersed between Zones 1 and 2, but tapers off in Zones 3 and 4. New York's distribution is evenly dispersed throughout the zones, where Zone 1 and 4 have 6 nightclubs. When each map is scrutinized together, an observation can be made on the basis of the largeness of the zones. Progressing from Toronto to New York to London, the zones become larger to encompass a broader area. This would indicate that the spatial preferences of London nightclubs is to be further apart.
Next, we will be discussing the background research. To understand the spatial findings related before, we will be examining the arguments by Paul Chatterton and Robert Hollins in their article Theorizing Urban Playscapes, Producing, Regulating, and Consuming Youthful Nightlife City Spaces, and Matt Patterson's and Daniel Silver's article The Place of Art, Local Area Characteristics, and Art Growth in Canada. Chatterton and Hollins hypothesize that the three interrelated aspects, production, regulation, and consumption of playscapes, lead to the creation of a mainstream urban nightlife. This homogeneous form of nightlife is produced through the corporatization and branding of ownership. It is regulated through schemes of accumulating capital, urban image building, and it is finally consumed through catering to an exclusive and upmarket audience. Mainstream is defined as those nightclubs that are created to target certain audiences and whom are successful in finding landscapes these groups may find attractive. This concept of creating brands is interesting because it means nightclubs can be associated with inclusivity and are exhibiting similar patterns across countries irrelevant to the geographical boundaries. The second theory examines 5 types of clustering that occurs in cities in relation to art districts discussed by Patterson and Silver. Our group believes critical mass where growth occurs in existing established areas and urbanity where growth occurs in cities explains the clustering. The nightclubs were hypothesized to follow mainstream and critical mass pattern mainly. To uncover if the previous theories held merit, we analyzed 6 variables. They were our average hours of operation on Friday, average days open a week, types of nightclub landscapes, whether they are clubs, lounges, or bars, number of clubs that provide room for corporate events, and their target audiences. Our data sources included Yelp, club crawlers, Google search, and the websites themselves. Basically, the most common form of nightclubs between all 3 cities would be marketed as dance clubs, then it would be bars, and finally lounges. This pattern tells us that all of these cities could potentially be targeting the same audience. In terms of the hours of operation, Toronto nightclubs are open for the least amount of time. Then it is New York and London, ones that are ranked relatively evenly. In terms of the amount of days the nightclubs are open in each respective city, the pattern is almost identical to that of the trend in their hours of operation. From least days open to most days open, it is Toronto, London, and then New York. Each club has a website that contain information like dress codes, contact information, events being held, and they also show images of the people who attend their club. The website itself acts as a gatekeeper to the types of audiences welcome to each nightclub. There is a trend of the club owners preparing consumers for what they're going to get when they come to the nightclub and basically saying what type of clientele they want. The price between cities is fairly similar but increased in price from Toronto, London, and finally to New York. The prices typically centered around being 2 or 3 out of 4. The final finding was that the target audiences varied between all 3 cities. However, The data shows that London and Toronto cater toward young adults, whereas New York and Toronto cater towards a more professional clientele. This would mean overall that Toronto is more diverse in the clientele that they welcome, and London and New York, while they are catering towards specific audiences, where London caters towards young adults and New York cater towards professionals, they are each employing similar business strategies as evidenced by the number of days open and the hours of operation. In comparison to Toronto, that is more varied in all of the variables discussed. To conclude, there were two main findings found within the research. The first is that all three cities cater toward a certain demographic. Toronto advertises towards the young adult crowd and the professional crowd. Toronto was also the location that had the most space available for corporate events. Contrastingly, London caters towards the young adult crowd and New York caters towards the professional crowd. However, they both employ similar business strategies evidenced by their price ranges and average days and hours open. The second main finding is that there is a spatial isomorphic trend to cluster in the city core, wherein they form concentric circles around this core. Overall, the three cities are displaying an isomorphic tendency to use their website as a gatekeeper for their target audiences. They are also employing the same spatial strategy of clustering, supporting Patterson and Silver's finding of critical mass and urbanity. Chatterton and Hollins also had the right idea that there is a corporatization happening. Nightclubs are going mainstream to cater certain audiences, and they are employing similar business strategies. This means that distance does not matter, and the labeling of global cities are taking their toll on the unique cultures provided by each city landscape. This concludes our presentation. Thank you for listening. For further information or to contact the group members, a link has been provided below. This presentation has been brought to you by the University of Toronto Scarborough with guidance by Professor Clayton Childress.